115 men and 65 women in a large conference room. How many handshakes would take place if all people, should say people, shook hands with all other people in the room? That's an interesting question. How many handshakes would take place? How in the world can we figure that out? Well, if you think about it, what it is, if everybody's shaking hands, how many people are there total? So if I add 115 and 65, right, the men and the women, add up the men and the women there. What is that? I don't know. I think it's 180. Isn't it? Yeah, 100, 180 total people. So 180 total people. So what I'm going to do, so basically I've got 180 total people. And I'm wondering if everybody is going to shake hands with everybody, how many total handshakes are there? Well, the question that you want to ask yourself whenever you're counting, does order matter or does order not matter? No, order does not matter, right? If I say, hey, Joe shook hands with Mary, and somebody says, oh, wait, I thought you said Mary shook hands with Joe. And we'd go, well, that's the same thing, right? Order doesn't matter. They shook hands with each other. That's not different. Oh no, right? That's not different. Order does not matter. Okay, so what? So we do not, in fact, we cannot use decisions options. We do not use decisions options. In other words, you don't say, oh, well, so basically it's all the ways you can pick two people to shake hands, right? If I had 180 people in the room and I was going to pick two, you and you, I want you two to shake hands, right? All the different ways there are to do that are all the different ways people can shake hands. That's all the different handshakes that are possible, right? Well, you might think, well, we just do decisions. Okay, this is wrong. You can't do decisions options. I want to show though that you can. You might think it'd be so natural, but barely wrong. You might think, well, look, you just go, there's 180 people. You just pick the first person. There's 180 people to choose from, and then after you pick that person, there's 179 left. Pick that person, and those two shake hands. All the different ways, right? All the different ways you can pick two people are all the different handshakes that are possible. Can't do it that way, right? Because when you do it that way, you're saying order matters. I want to make sure that's really clear to you. Whenever you do decision option thinking, you're forcing, requiring the order to matter. And it does not in this situation. There's no difference if Joe shakes hands with Mary or Mary shakes hands with Joe, whatever. That's the same handshake. So we can't do it this way. Okay, so what do we do? Well, that's why in the notes, I showed you in the exam 4 notes, when order matters, it doesn't here. And then when order doesn't matter, here's the full when order doesn't matter. When order doesn't matter, what do you do? Well, if you're choosing 2 out of 10, we're choosing 2 out of 180 or 3 out of 10. You do start, to calculate, you start with the 10, in our case, the 180 on the top, multiply 3, in our case, 2 numbers, going down 1. So we'll have 180 times 179. It'll start out the same on the top, but then you'll divide by a denominator, then put this over denominator, starting at 3, in our case, 2, multiplying down by 1. We're going to have 2 times 1 on the bottom. So it ends up being, it's close to what we did with decisions options, but in reality, it's going to be 180 times 179 over 2 times 1. So you got to divide by 2 times 1 because order does not matter. So whenever order does not matter, yes, you do start with the 180, the total, and you do 2 numbers because we're picking, you might wonder, where'd the 2 come from? Well, 2 people shake hands, right? If you want to find all the ways to shake hands, that's the same thing as asking all the ways to pick 2 people in the room, right? Anytime you pick 2 people in the room, you've picked 2 people that can shake hands. So you're basically, it's the same thing as asking what are all the ways to pick 2 people. That's all the different handshakes that are possible. So you start with 180, write two numbers, but then you got to divide by 2 times 1 when order does not matter. So do that on your calculator. And I'm doing that on my calculator. And I'm getting 16,110 handshakes are possible. Now, the next one. How many handshakes would take place if all the men shook hands with all the other men and all the women with all the women, but no man with women? So now we're going to have to do men with men here. And then we'll do, after that, the women with women. And we're going to have to multiply those together. All right, so how do we do it? Well, again, men with men, how many men are there? 115 men. 115 men, right? You got to pick two. Again, it's the same thing. You were saying how many handshakes men with men? Well, it's all the ways of picking two men out of the 115 to shake hands. So again, order does not matter. That's 115 times 114 over 2 times 1. And how about for the women? There's 65 women in my example. 65, pick 2 over 2 times 1, right? All the ways two women can shake hands are all the ways of picking two women. So let's do that. I'm getting 8280 times and 2080. Change it over here. Equals, I don't know, a big number. Oh my goodness, really big number. 17,222,400. So there we go. 17,222,400. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. We don't multiply these. We add these. That was really dumb of me. Try that again. We add them, right? We add them. How many handshakes possible? If all the men shook hands with all the other men in the room, right? This is all the different man handshakes that are possible. And these are all the woman handshakes that are possible. We just add those. I was just losing my brain for a minute there. 8280 plus 2080, right? Just all the man handshakes plus all the woman handshakes. There'd be 10,360 handshakes that are possible. There we go. And now finally, the third part is more tricky, I think. How many handshakes would take place if all the men shook hands with all the women, but no two men or two women shook? So the men with the women. That's interesting. All the men with the women. Well, we have 115 men and we have 65 women. Okay, so now the trick on this one is we can't do it the normal way. We can't just do it the normal way. This is a little more tricky because there's two different groups, right? Two different size groups. So basically, and this group is shaking hands with that group. So, I can't. You might say, well, can't you just add them together again, Ms. Taryn, and just take it out of 180? No, because if I just say, what are all the ways to pick two people out of 180, right? That's what we did up here when we said everybody shakes hands with everybody. We said out of all 180 people, what are all the ways to pick two, to choose two, where order doesn't matter, right? Well, we can't do that here because you might get two men, right? If you said pick anything you want out of 180, you could get two men, you could get two women. We're specifically saying no two women, no two men. So you got to have men going to women. You can't have men with men and women with women. So you can't just lump them together and take the 180. Anyway, so that's what you can't do it that way. What do you do? Well, just each of those 115 men needs to shake 165 hands. It's just multiplication. Do you realize that? Each of those 115 men, just imagine if they all lined up, like a junior high dance or something. All the men, 115 men lined up on one wall, 65 women lined up on the other wall in some gigantic auditorium at a conference, right? A large conference room, right? That's what I said. Imagine like a junior high dance, all the boys on one wall, the girls on the other, right? And the first guy, the brave guy, goes down the line and he shakes all 65 women's hands right on down the line. And then the second guy goes, oh, I can do it. That guy did, I can do it. He goes down the line and shakes it, right? Each of them is going to shake 65 hands. It's just simply multiplication, isn't it? You picturing that? Can you picture it happening like a junior high dance? 74, 75. There we go. Just multiply those together. There we go.